Hi everybody, welcome. Eastern University Gallery wanted to welcome Abigail Levine, who will be joining us today for a dance performance. For the last 20 years, Levine has expanded the cultural legacy of minimal and conceptual art and worked with artists such as composer Alvin Lucier, performance artist Marina Abramovic, and choreographer Yvonne Rayner. So, welcome. We're so happy to have you.
First, I just want to introduce my collaborator, Paula Matthewson. Longtime bandmate and trooper, professor at Wesleyan University of Music, and a great honor to work with. So you're going to see very live experiment because though Paul and I have worked together for a long time, we have never done exactly this, ever. So we just spent the car ride over from Middletown talking about what we were doing. We've exchanged a lot of emails, but so I consider myself an experimental artist, which I think of as putting myself in line with scientists, humbly, because I am not a scientist, but in that I propose things that I think are interesting, or I also have a literature background, so sometimes it's about the metaphor of them, but you as my audience members are really like along for the ride of let's see how this comes out. So I do try and make things that are beautiful and meaningful, but I don't promise that we know exactly how they're going to come out. So a Broadway show, like every quarter of a second is like boom, and it looks like this, and boom, and it looks like that. And this is more like, let's see how these pencils behave on this floor with these jeans and this amount of sweat. So it's a little more like you are here for an experience that is unfolding. Are a lot of you visual art makers and students, or tell me a little bit where folks are coming from?
I'm a theater major with a dance concentration.
Cool. Other people are coming from performing arts, from visual arts, from...
Mostly performing arts, but in the middle, I would say.
Cool.
Mostly, yes, acting and those kind of things.
Great. And also feel free to move yourself around if like I get down low and you can't see me. So I come from a modern dance background way back in the day. I was a student at Wesleyan, and the music faculty were particularly influential to me, and they were students and contemporaries of Sol Lewitt. And there was this sort of world in downtown Manhattan in the 60s where the visual arts and the performing arts and sound were all literally in bed together, and also in the theater and in loft space together. And so my connection to Lewitt in particular is that I went, and this is maybe written about in the brochure, I went to see his show after studying a lot of this stuff, studying performance studies, and thought, oh my God, this is just a dance waiting to happen. So I took one of his wall drawings, like you guys have on the wall over there, and I just executed it as a performance. And it took me 30 hours over 5 days, and I just drew each line, one line at a time, and we put microphones on the wall, and people came into the gallery over the course of 5 days, and we made this drawing. And then in a very monkish kind of way that I was not totally prepared for, the next day it was all painted over. So such is dance. But this influence of these beautiful ideas that sort of manifest in the way they're going to manifest is influential to me. I really believe in the body, so that's sort of what stays live about dance. But I also have a literature background, and so there's writing, and so this, which I have some of, and there are some of all the texts that I'm going to speak are in this little zine here, as well as some others. You'll hear 3 texts. The first one I think of as a score, so a set of instructions. The second one is a bunch of phrases that come from the media and from academia. And the third, you will hear me referring to a you, and that you is my 2-year-old daughter. And a lot of this piece is me thinking about her coming into the world and starting to learn language and moving from her body into words. So those are some of what you'll hear. And if it all feels just sort of like what the hell is going on, just think of it as kind of trippy storytelling. And if you have time, we can talk about it afterwards. Yeah. Okay. And this is Janet Vassell's work, so I just want to acknowledge that Janet is the curator of Lewitt's collection, and we were in touch when I performed the Lewitt work, so it feels very lovely to be able to dance in her space. Not listening to someone you're supposed to be listening to. Look at them calmly, opening your face to their presence and sound. Let their words slide right in and back out of your ears. You will not know how to respond. This is a risk. But likely, if you leave some space, they will just fill it in for you. Depending on who they are and what they are saying, this may go on for a long time. Play with it. Try not nodding. Or offer just a half nod, raising your chin. How long can your gestures say nothing either? Or maybe you offer an O. But make it an O that could be about what they are saying, or that you thought about something else entirely. And make it a beautiful, round-mouthed O. Maybe you can set off a whole duet of O's, a call and response. You might add an ah or an If you make it this far, you can start listening again. You'd be practically making love by this point anyway. Or maybe you just walk away. Enjoying the sound of your own voice. Coming back to you. From a wall or a bird. Kneeling bus. Hellenic charter school. Whistleblower. Soul patch. Power vegan. Sanctuaries for the unborn. Closely tuned intervals. Preliminary injunctions. Clean air shelters. Subtle indictments. Woke billionaires. Incendiary permutations, methodological assumptions, extraterrestrial infatuation. pure cognition, preborn life, Rostov-on-Don. Inexorably trapped, blindingly obvious, systematically subordinated. Geriatric, millennial, elderly, primigravida. Fledgling legitimacy. Deliverista. Counter-transference. Metaphorical father. Urban firestorm. Transcendent form. Terminal, mooring.
This week, you have begun to move your hands like seaweed in front of your face, or like the Queen of England on barbiturates. You did this when a stranger we stopped to smile at said bye-bye. It looked like you waved. Maybe, but probably not. You are experimenting with the capacities of your body, and sometimes they accidentally mean something. You have also been experimenting with your breath. You often seek out the limits of your capacities, which I admire. You start with an ah, then it becomes a raspy growl, and your face turns red and then you go silent as you run out of air. You do not know, of course, that breathing, or not being able to, is the most potent, non-symbolic symbol of our national moment. Our state's authorities have been denying certain people the ability to breathe, and we have been watching it in horror, but not knowing what to do, or knowing but lacking the power, or for some, having the power but lacking the volition. You can't always get yourself out of your non-breathing state. I say okay and take a breath in to prompt you. Today, again, the circus of our government in its most recent incarnation was put on display. Like with you, dishes were thrown and food ended up on the wall. But none of it was done joyously. We will be laughed at by history if others survive us. The vice president, a woman, dodged the question of using her office to try to return the right to not have a child, instead pointing out her 85-year-old mother had enjoyed more rights than her 23-year-old daughter will. What to do, the reporter asked again and again. More voting, which has not worked so far, but we did today anyway. You charmed the poll workers, of course, and were charmed by the great yellow warning labels on the privacy booths.
I don't know without a facilitator if we're gonna hang and chat, or if people want to see the show. I don't know if you've been here. But. Yeah.
Can we just discuss?
For sure. Yeah.
I liked how at the end on the first coffee maker, you tried to match the pitch, but I feel like you didn't harmonize. And then the second one, you got closer, and you were actually hitting it, but then you were going above the low. And then the third one, you hit the note, and then the instrumental harmonics came in.
Yeah.
I thought that was beautiful because of the way we were trying to portray, like, to me, about maybe just trying to get it right. Sometimes it feels like in day-to-day life.
I decided to get all different coffee grinders, so they all act differently. So this one is very muted. It's very hard to, and some of them don't stay at the same pitch. Yeah, I mean, I hope these things are kind of metaphors. For sure. Yeah.
So I previously went to the Prague Journal this summer.
Say it again?
I went to the Prague Journal this summer.
Cool.
I don't know what it is.
I do.
Yeah. So that's that has a lot of like performance like this.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see like the abstracts. That's something we were taught at like there, or the museum here.
Yeah, you know, you start doing this kind of stuff and it becomes its own world, and so you don't realize that it's not what people see every day, because it's what I see every day. But it definitely, this world of like art exhibitions and performance and stuff.
I was just curious, you said sorry, your name? Paula. How long have you guys been collaborating, and like, what does that look like? How does the process begin for you? Can you talk a little bit about how you collaborate?
Met in 2015, I think. Yeah.
And we've done, what's nice is we've been working together long enough that we have a good enough shorthand now too, so that really helps. And because the movements that Abigail does often has so many beautiful sounds in them, I'm usually trying to work in counterpoint to that and sort of get out of the way a lot of the times and sort of play with that. So you know, each sort of project has been a little bit different in terms of what that looks like, in terms of what it's like to get alone, or what the dancers, or what the sort of space is like. And so I'm able to tune my system too. So I was able to tune actually to the coffee grinders, so that I was able to like kind of help me kind of go into the palette piece a little bit.
Yeah, and I think we've sort of figured out that we share enough of a worldview and an aesthetic, and so I can kind of give Paula some information and just trust that what she's gonna see and hear and the choices she's gonna make are going to just do interesting things. And sometimes I don't understand the connection the first time they come together, and I sit with it for a while.
How were you experiencing this other layer of sound into your performance?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate, I call this, so this piece also is, this is a first, so words begin as sound is kind of the big research bucket, and out of that is going to become an evening length work. And the first, there are 5 dancers total. So I learned a few other people's parts to be able to collage something together for this occasion. But in the last piece that we did, we left a big roll top door open, and it was in an industrial part of New York, so there were a lot of sounds. I call these my chorus with coffee grinders. So I liked the challenge of having a chorus there. And I guess because I would like you to, take these sort of things that are sort of our world and sort of not of our world and bring them back out. Having the world come in here feels good. Yeah.
I was very impressed with the whole piece but aside from the sounds, I found a lot of spatial things going on with pencils, and then the different movements that you made where it almost seemed sculptural, a lot of the stances that you took and that kind of thing. And then I was impressed by the way that you brought the text into it, and we're talking about the world of today. I like the political connections, because I come kind of from the political time and history, and I was just very impressed with all that. I guess my question is just, when you were doing this, were you thinking spatially also?
Yeah, I mean, particularly, so the pencils figure in the bigger piece we're making, but doing it as a solo, the setting them up in grids isn't going to happen in the other version, but I thought it was a nice Sol Lewitt nod, because it is one of his forms, these lines in 4 directions. And yes, I mean, as I imagine these things, I see them a lot just as images. And when I work on other dancers, I will often, I use a mechanical slide projector, the carousel ones. Mm-hmm. So I'll often use that as a direction for timing. This kind of like your really weird vacation slideshow. And I like things to be open enough that I could come into a space. We had obviously these beautiful hangings and the definition that made, and so I was able to sort of tweak things a little bit this way and that way to sort of be in conversation with them. Big project for me, because I do find abstract art so moving. And there's an artist, Barnett, I'm going to say Barnett Cohen because that's my friend, but the other Barnett of the Zips, Barnett Newman, and he would paint these, just tons of canvases that were like all one color with the one stripe, and for him they were like a desperate call to remake the world after the Holocaust in World War II, and people look at them and they're like, there's a stripe on the line. And I see abstract art that way, but I've been feeling this imperative to kind of bring my life as a citizen together with my life as an artist. And so finding a way to use these texts, even if it's like, why are her legs like this when she's talking about people being killed by the police, but they sort of exist in my world that way, and they come into my body and they come out of my body. So that's been important for me to at least make an attempt at having those share a space. Yeah.
Have you heard of Milo?
Milo.
Rap Ferreira?
No.
There's this artist that shares a very similar energy to you.
Uh-huh.
It almost was like a magic spell, like the way that I felt the same exact feeling that his music and his music videos give me. It was like, it's almost like you might share like a common inspiration or something. Like down to the music, like the instrumental and just the energy, the poems you were speaking were very Milo-esque.
Oh, cool.
I'd like to after maybe show you some.
I would love it. Yeah. Cool. Yes, this is my references get stuck sometimes, so yes, I'm gonna get that.
It's hard to remember. We subconsciously remember, and the influences come out with us.
For sure. The class that you brought, what was the?
There were 2 different groups of students from my classes. One was a first year class of performance and context, dance and choreography. Okay. So hopefully I'll get new majors from that group as kind of an aim in that, and sort of an introduction to global iterations of dance and choreography, a lot in a little time.
For sure.
And then the second group, which I love that you framed, like this is going to be an experiment. So it's improv and physical theater. And so those are mostly actor, performer folks, and they have their limitations as to like, you know, what performance is to them and
For sure.
like what is normal and what is, so this was very great for them because
Okay.
they're not really postmoderners yet.
Yeah.
But that's the goal, and they're
Yeah.
younger.
Yeah.
Well, this is a weird group because it's usually a first or freshman or sophomore
Yeah.
classing, but this group has all ages in it. So I can't wait to hear their responses.
I mean, I started dancing at the Albanelli School. It's in there. It just comes out in different ways,
Mhm.
as you know.
Yes,
Yeah.
but you also went to Wesleyan, you said.
I did go to Wesleyan.
So that
Changed
that's
things.
a lot of things. Yes.
Yeah.
Are you in New York?
I am in New York. Yeah. Grew up in New York. Didn't mean to go back to New York. Back in New York.
So when is what's your goal in terms of the evening length work?
Yeah, so we'll do this first draft in a few weeks at a gallery called Fridman Gallery that I think maybe sent a show up here of Ukrainian women.
Oh yeah, we had that last year.
Yeah, so at that space. I would say late 24, early 25.
Okay.
Try and get the full evening out. That's the goal.
Well, you have to keep us in touch.
Please. Yeah. And yeah, definitely if students have any feelings or curiosities and want to follow up, I'm happy to field questions or.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing with us. It was really
Oh,
cool.
yeah, thanks
I
for
really
having
enjoyed
me.
it. It was so nice to like really help to like slow down. Although I was listening to the words that you were speaking. I was trying to follow the directions.
Yes, well, that's my joke.
It was a good experiment for us to work
Cool.
on. Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Tell me about Milo. Come talk to us. We'll be
Oh,
here
yeah.
for a little while.
Yeah.